All right, folks, here we are. We'll start off with this, nutrition and food facts. This is, forget the product and this, that, and the other. I just kind of Googled nutrition panel and ingredients and a bunch of websites, even the FDA came up and this, that, and the other. But I'm just gonna kind of just really show you, this is some sort of tomato soup essentially, and this is the nutrition panel. This is pretty straightforward. Like this is, when you see something that says nutrition facts, it's typically a food, not a supplement, even though you find supplements that will say nutrition, things like that. So just don't worry about that too much, right? We're not gonna read into that too terribly much. As we go down, we got calories, we got fat, carbohydrates, this, that, and the other. But what we're really looking at is the bottom here where it says ingredients. That is what we're really, really concerned with, okay? And so throw that, essentially, this product out in some ways, but because you can't read it, but I have another ingredients panel over here, and I believe this is like a muffin of some sort. Same website, it just kind of blew it up and you can see what's going on, okay? And what I'm going to do is not necessarily read from this, but I'm going to describe something. The biggest takeaway for this, what you need to know, is that when it says nutrition facts, it is the FDA is stepping in and saying, okay, when you list these ingredients, the number one thing to keep in mind is that they're listed in their order of quantity, volume, weight, mass, whatever it is, whatever, the most. The thing that's in there the most is written first, and the thing that's in there the least is written last. Now, it doesn't give you the quantities necessarily, right? So you're kind of like, well, are things at the bottom? They're probably not very much. That's not the point. The point is that it's in there. And you go like, well, if something that's not super good for me is listed at the bottom, well, you know, what the FDA is going to say, I think it's generally considered safe. Yeah. G-grass, yes, generally considered safe, whatever. So, but at the end of the day, a lot of those compounds that are considered generally safe by volume, they're in almost everything. And that's kind of really what we're trying to avoid. And we're looking at this as a muffin, it's like, well, shoot, why are there so many ingredients in a muffin? Okay, is it a flavored muffin? Doesn't matter, okay? So that's the big takeaway, is like, most things that you're gonna see in this right here, it says enriched, right? That's another big, big takeaway. When it says enriched, here's the, oh, that's good for me. No, enriched means synthetic added. It means fake. It means not derived from the product, because with the FDA is like when you release a bread, the rule is within a bread or a pasta or something that's wheat or flour or something, there has to be a percentage of vitamins in it, right? Fortification is another word. Oh, fortified. I mean, fortified means added fake vitamins. And we don't like, well, wait a minute, why isn't there vitamins and folic acid and things like that that's naturally occurring in unbleached and untarnished well, it is. But in the processing of it, you lose like ultra heating, like that's why microwaves are so bad for your food. When you ultra heat something, the heat, like anything else, like you throw food on the griddle, you just keep cooking it before you burn the tar out of it. And you're like, well, that's not very good tasting. The reason it's not very good tasting is because molecularly you have destroyed a lot of the nutrients that give it whole flavor. Like a burnt toast is not good, doesn't taste good, and that black stuff is not good for you, okay? So one of the things I'm gonna kind of go through this is things that we really, really want to avoid. That's no exception. This isn't like, yeah, Jeff, but. No. There is no buts to this, and that's what we have to come to that place in this world. Is because in the world I live in, the tactical space, cutting corners will eventually develop into some bad habits, hurt yourself, hurt somebody else. It's not okay. Skydiving, we don't cut corners. Handling firearms, we don't cut corners. Diving, we most certainly don't cut corners. And so when it comes to optimizing the system, we have to stop saying, well, yeah, Jeff, but they wouldn't put it on the shelf if it wasn't good for you. Because I myself used to say nonsense like that. I at one point was sponsored by Monster energy drinks. And I used to say, well, you know, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, I had to come to a conclusion to go, are there better alternatives? Is it gonna kill me right now? But when I was telling people, you got to do the right thing and be this and be that, but I was still promoting something that is lesser than good, I was just a hypocrite. My own self-loathing didn't let me see past my own truth, because when I start saying truthful stuff, you know who knows who's telling the truth? Yourself and God. So we're going to stop beating around the bush and pretending that foods that aren't quite, are just fine. We got to stop doing that. Like, that's like the first big line in the sand that we need to draw with ourselves, not to be self-righteous, but to be self-loving. And that's the reality, is I want you all to feel like I feel. Not even emotionally. I'm saying the way that I feel when I eat is charging. It feels awesome. I'm not inflamed. I don't have obstructed airways anymore. I don't snore. I'm not sore all the time. I'm not bloated all the time. And I just feel awesome, right? And so I want to share how I feel with you. And the reason I feel this way physically is because of these truths, okay? And so no particular order, I wrote these down because I don't want to miss anything, and I'm not going to get on a soapbox. I'm going to explain a few things, but this is my way. This is the way right? If you're going to come train with us, this is almost what we require to a degree, because we know that getting the best out of you as an athlete first comes down, how are we fueling, how are we sleeping, right? And then how are we training, okay? So the first and foremost above all else is added sugar, right? When we look at this nutrition panel, it's gonna say sugar and it's gonna say added sugar. We want 0, not a gram, not 2 grams, not 3 grams, not anything. We want 0 of any kind, right? Like, well, what about coconut sugar? What about cane sugar? What about that? No, 0 sugar, because you don't need it, right? Sugar is not something that you need to be consuming much of at all, because in glycolysis of good carbohydrates, you're going to get your glucose. You don't need to keep adding, right, from someone that was purely diabetic, truly, and because I stopped eating certain ways, specifically any added sugar of any sort, I don't ever crave it at all, not even a little bit. Now I go, oh, sugar, like dates. A fresh date I can eat. Fresh berries I can eat. Fresh fruit I can eat. I can do all those fresh, sugar-filled type things because they have these natural, right? When you have a fresh blueberry, yes, there's sugar in it, but there's no added sugar. And with that component of sugar of a blueberry, you have fiber, you have all these nutrients that in turn properly, slowly, methodically digest that blueberry so you don't get big insulin spikes and it doesn't jack up your pancreas. So when you flip over to a nutrition panel and it says added sugar, under no circumstances should you be eating it. Period. Not, well, yeah, again, 0 added sugar, no exceptions. That's it, okay? The next is, here's where we get a real kind of interesting sort of, we already showed you kind of the back of this. It says enriched. Anything that says enriched, it's synthetic. It's not real. It's not derived from nature, and there is a big blowback from adding fake synthetic vitamins in this enrichment process to you, okay? So we have enriched flours, enriched, bleached, and unbleached. When it says bleached, it literally means using bleach. The reason why they use bleach, other than it makes flour very white, wheat is not white. Wheat is very dark brown, okay? The reason why things are bleached is because when newspapers were black and white, bread that was very dark in color pretty much just looked like a big dark brown black blob on a newspaper ad, and that doesn't look super tasty. So even in black and white, they would bleach flour, and also the bleaching and adding other these preservatives gives our bread this nice, super fluffy, Subway and Panera look, okay? So the big absolute no-no in this world is any bleached, unbleached, enriched flour. Even here's the thing, is you go to your grocery store and you go, well, I'm eating sourdough bread. Well, you flip it over and it says, what's the first ingredient of 99.9999% of all sourdough in the United States? It's gonna say bleached, enriched flour. So you've basically taken this really beautiful sourdoughing process, you've mixed it with carcinogenic flour, and we're like, well, it's the same. No, it's not good for you, right? The exceptions are, I always call it the sourdough scam. Well, it's sourdough bread. Yeah, but it's sourdough bread mixed with bleach flour. Like the bleach that you clean your clothes with, that's what you're eating when you have bleached flour. Right? They may not use even bleach. Maybe bromine is another one. Like, what do you go to a public swimming pool, what are they using? Bromine, gaseous bromine, or chlorine, bleach, chlorine, right? That's what they're using to bleach your food. Okay, so the exception, like what we're looking for is like an example is an unbleached, hand milled or locally milled or certain, like no processing other than like it's milled themselves. Einkorn sourdough bread is something that is going to affect you completely different, taste amazing. It's not gonna mess with your blood sugar, and boom. So one of the other big scams and like, again, is like the Ezekiel bread. Oh, it's frozen, it's gluten-free and all these sort of things. Yes, but if you look at it, it's not. They've actually added wheat gluten. We don't want that inflammatory process. That's what it's going to do, okay? So even the breads, like I have one bread that I found in the grocery store that's using non-bleached milled bread. It's using grains or minimal grains, but it's using like almond this or this, but you just got to kind of really look and see. But what we do is I test my blood sugar when I eat that stuff. If it does anything to my blood sugar, it goes in the trash, period, no exceptions, okay? But the bread that I eat is einkorn sourdough, and I either would make it myself, because you can find those ancient grains, or I get it shipped in from like either Miami, New York, and places that have really good bakeries, okay? The next is seed oils, right? And there's a whole list of things that, again, they try to sneak in there, and none of them are okay for you, because there's a lot of reasons why they put that in there. And I'm not going to dive into it because it's you finding out your own reasons why these things are poisonous is more beneficial than me just telling you. But anything that's soy. Now you go like, what about edamame? Not so much, because you have the whole thing, right? Especially, that's kind of a different exception. Is like, but again, where is it sourced from? Is it covered in pesticides, all this sort of stuff? But soy, specifically in the United States, is not good for you in any way. Not, right? Canola, not good for you, not in any way, shape, or form, okay? Safflower, sunflower oil. Those are all, you're gonna look at vegetable oil, which is always a combination of sunflower, safflower, canola, or palm oil. None of those are good. None of those are edible. Those are all industrial engine lubricants. That's what I use these things. I use canola oil on my guns. They're bleached. That's why they're super clear and golden instead of dark brown, because they use a very, 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 very high, strong acid to pull out that dark color and make it this nice golden color, okay? No bueno. Even peanut oil I don't eat unless I know where it's sourced from, because most of peanuts in the United States, in the crop rotation, they're rotated with either corn or cotton. And cotton, corn, and peanuts are extremely, extremely soaked and doused and sprayed with glyphosate. And so that stays behind, that goes into you. If we don't know what glyphosate is by now, you probably should, but it's in pretty much everything we eat. So especially if you look up what your water quality in your hometown is, every single zip code in the United States has glyphosate, pesticides, herbicides in, and that's a broken down byproduct of glyphosate, right? So Roundup, bug spray, your home defense spider and bug spray, that's in your drinking water, okay? So the alternatives, there's gonna be olive oil. But the olive oil needs to be cold pressed and it needs to be single source, not, you look at the cheapest olive oil and look back and it's like product of Argentina, United States, South America. So they combine all this really low grade olive oil, not okay. Single source, you can find it in California, really good stuff. We get ours shipped in from Italy or Sicily or Spain or Portugal, just the way that it is, right? It's not any more really, again, we go, well, this is all expensive, Jeff. You know what else is? Heart disease, cancer, and all the things that come from eating this shit food, okay? Cold pressed, single source olive oil. Super available in every grocery store pretty much in the country, okay? Beef tallow, right? If beef tallow is on the shelf and it is separating, that's not good beef tallow. That's some really, really rancid nonsense. Your beef tallow, when it's sitting in the sun at 110 degrees, it should look like an oily liquid. When it's sitting on your shelf at 75 degrees, it should look like paste. It should not be separating. It should not be clumping. It should not be doing any of that. So beef tallow, a really good source of beef tallow, is exceptionally good, right? Unpasteurized, that's the key. Unpasteurized butter or ghee, also amazing. We'll get into the pasteurization thing in a minute. Or coconut oil. Those are your options. No exceptions. I mean, there might be a few other kind of things, but those are about the only 4 things that on that really super, super healthy saturated fat side, those are your 4. Coconut oil, unpasteurized butter, ghee, beef tallow, or single source olive oil. Really, really, really good for you. Really good for you. Exceptional, especially for the brain, joints, tendons, ligaments, all that stuff. Okay, the next one, pasteurized dairy, period. So almost every bit of cheese in America, every gallon of milk, every yogurt, right? Unless you're getting coconut yogurt. That's where we're getting cultured coconut instead of cultured milk. So you can get really good unpasteurized, right? Here's the kind of the swing now. They're like low heat pasteurization. Also garbage, because the pasteurization process, right, when it came around, it was good. We needed to pasteurize really healthy milk, we'll call it back in the day, and we were sending that overseas or have a longer shelf life for basically war. That's where that came from. But there are refrigerators almost in everyone's home in America. We no longer need to, well, Jeff, it's for bacteria, this, that, and the other. There's so much scrutiny on food health in America that if something's gonna be dirty, something's gonna be dirty. That's why I don't eat in restaurants. The fucking filth and nastiness in restaurants, there's a higher risk for eating the dirtiness than it is the food, right? And so I don't deal with restaurants, right? I just really don't. The only time I'll make an exception is very, very, very high-end restaurants that I know exactly what they're cooking in and these ingredients, or occasionally I have sushi. But when I have sushi, I always take parasite sort of stuff. So you can pretty much guarantee every bit of sushi you're having in America is full of parasites. So anytime I do that, I make sure I have a parasite protocol that I have sushi with, and that's that. So milk, all milk, every bit of milk, skim milk, whole milk, 2%, 1%. Pasteurization kills. You could call pasteurized dairy dead dairy. It's dead. There is no nutrients because all of that stuff is fortified. It's heated at such a high temperature that all of the nutrients, to include most of the proteins, are ruined or damaged in the heating process. So they have to add synthetic, because you'll see hyper pasteurization, ultra pasteurization, fortified this and fortified that, enrich this, and those are all, once the milk has been killed by heat, then they add the synthetic stuff back in and then they sell it to you all. Every human being in the world is lactose intolerant of pasteurized homogenized milk. Your lactose, the sugar in milk, everyone, that protein, everyone is intolerant. Everyone is, every human being. But there's not a single human being on this planet that is lactose intolerant of raw dairy. Not a thing, it doesn't exist, okay? So same with milks. Or cheeses, same thing. Raw cheese only, period, end of subject. Yogurt is probably one of the worst things in the world because you have dead milk, added all these artificial flavorings, and they add in a ton of sugar, ton of added sugar. It's one of the worst things for an inflammatory process that you can consume is your Yoplait yogurt or whatever your Go-Gurt for your kids. It's absolutely poisonous. So there should be zero exception to this. If it says pasteurized, it means poison, period. And that goes also to it, unpasteurized and pasteurized juice. Your orange juices, any juice, any and every single juice that you find next to your milks, those are all absolute garbage. Now you can go some places, some markets where you can get fresh squeeze, unpasteurized grapefruit juice. That is amazing and amazing for you, right? That's not gonna spike up your index, your glycemic index, your insulin. Now, orange juice still could drive up your insulin for sure, but we want it to have as much pulp as possible. We want it unpasteurized, but that's also personnel dependent. But like I drink or squeeze my own grapefruit. It's unpasteurized. It doesn't affect my blood sugar. And it has all these other benefits by not being heated up at a ridiculous temperature to kill everything, to include the nutrients, period, okay? And that goes into your energy drinks and things like that too. Those are like, there is not an energy drink in any sort of can, bottle, or anything in this country. There's not a one that should be consumed by a human being. Not a one, not a single one. And see, that's what we have to get to in this world is when you understand that the food system is not there to make you healthy, the food system, you need to navigate it. But like I said, pasteurized dairy is not fit for human consumption. Bleached flour is not fit for human consumption. Yogurts, pasteurized yogurts, not fit for human consumption. Added sugar, not fit for human consumption. So as long as you are doing that, you're going, oh my God, Jeff, that pretty much eliminates my whole diet. And then lies the problem, right? Think about that. That's why I tell you all, most people don't eat real food most of the day. Think about that. What do you eat for breakfast? If there's even like one of these ingredients in a good food source, like a grilled chicken, whatever, at Chipotle that's cooked in engine lubricant, this chicken could be healthy, but we'll never ever get the health benefits out of chicken because it's cooked in engine lubricant. So, and that's kind of the argument with sourdough bread is like, there is no argument. What are the ingredients? Look at them. How are they listed? A bread should be 4 or 5 ingredients. That's it. 4 or 5. And none of those ingredients in bread should be sugar or bleached or unbleached, enriched flour or wheat. No. It shouldn't be that at all. And here's the flip side. When you realize that, I say like this, when I was a little kid, my mom was a chef for 40 years. I remember I always, just like you, probably had canned pineapple, like at school lunches and things like that. And the first time, no kidding, I remember it to this day, the first time I had fresh pineapple, I stopped and I looked at my mom and I go, what the fuck? I didn't say fuck, I was a little kid. What the heck, Mom? She's like, what? She's like, what is this? She goes, that's pineapple. And I was like, no, like I've been eating this syrupy pineapple in chunks my whole life. Like, what was that? Like that certainly wasn't pineapple. Yeah, it was soaked in sugar water, sugar oil. And then you go, wait a minute, like so here's another like wild thing. You go to a grocery store where they have all those olives, all those different flavored olives sitting out in the olive bar. You know why they can just sit out all day in olive oil? Those must be in olive oil. No, they are soaked in engine lubricant. All of them are in vegetable oil or canola oil. That's why they don't go rancid. When you coat food in engine lubricant, you can set it out because you can't do that you can't leave fresh olive oil out and unopened. It'll oxidize, it'll turn brown. What do you think happens to olives if you leave it out? They oxidize and turn brown. So when you start buying your products, look at the label. And when you start switching to healthy alternatives, you're going to feel awesome. And you're like, well, is it more expensive? Maybe initially you think like it is, but when you buy healthier food, it's more nutrient dense. That fuel, in a way, lasts longer. It does. And so in the end, you're spending less, a little bit less in food quantity because the food quality is up. And in the end, year after year after year, you're spending less money on medications, less money on doctor visits. And then when you're 30, 40, and 50, you're not dying of cancer because you removed all of the things that make you get cancer. So our food, that's where it's coming from, right? I would say like, the environment is only a few things. What goes in our mouth, food and water, right? That's part of the environment. What goes on our skin, that's the environment. What else? And, obviously injectables, things like that, that's obvious. But what else is there? You can only be getting sick from your environment, not your genetic disposition. Genetic disposition comes out when you apply the disposition, which is a poor environment. So there's the list. There's no exceptions. As long as you make exceptions, you're going to keep having problems. When you remove all that bullshit from your life, all of those problems come to an end.